Hi, I'm Alison Kenyon. I'm a face painter, body painter, artist, clown, overall creative nut job. I grew up in the Bay Area. I grew up in Fremont. I was going to circus school and performing as a clown. And also I did a fire act, swallowed fire, did sort of an acrobatic belly dance contortion, do back bends and leg scales and balance these bowls on different parts of my body and swallowed fire for like the finale. So the guy who ran it, he had a client that asked if they could provide like living statues. Like being an artist and a face painter already, he said, hey, can you pull that off? I, did art ever since I could hold a pencil. Even in grade school and in high school, I was sort of the go-to, like if some art thing needed to be done, they'd say, hey, I want you to do it. It's kind of funny because I think I had seen an episode of Skin Wars. Maybe it popped up on YouTube or something. At the time, season 1 was still on, and I about had a panic attack just watching it, like my empathic anxiety, I was like, oh my gosh, I would never want to go on that show. And then within a week or two, I got the phone call from the producer saying, do you want to be on the show? I'm like, are you kidding me right now? And what's funny too is at the time I was in a business for performers class. I had just done the module on you have to make a Facebook page for your business. So because of that little module we did, I made one, and that was how she found me. It was so crazy, just the synchronicity of within 2 weeks of saying I would never want to be on the show, and then building that website, and then boom. After having a mini panic attack just from the phone call, I had to hang up, call Barry, the guy who was teaching that class, and have him talk me off the ledge and tell me of course you need to do it. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do it. But then she had, all this paperwork I had to fill out, little essays about who I am as a person, who I am as an artist. I'm thinking, gosh, if I get selected, I better be practicing. So having no idea if I was gonna even be on the show or not, I started watching the episodes, writing down what the challenge was, what the time limit was, and then duplicating those. So I was getting people hey, who wants to be my model? I can't pay you, but I'm just working on a project, a secret project. So about 300 people, I think, were contacted initially for season 3. Made a little video just of me saying, this is who I am, and blah, blah, blah. And I actually swallowed fire at the very end just to make myself memorable. Eventually, I got the call back to come to the in-person audition. Was it 20 people or 30 people? Something like that, 20 or 30. Got flown to LA, got put in hotel rooms. We got 6 hours to create a piece, any piece we wanted, with any prosthetics, props, whatever. It was just free reign, just do whatever, as long as you can get it done in 6 hours. And then we did little screen tests, and we had somebody interview us and ask us questions. And so out of those 30 people, 12 were selected to be on the show. Well, as time went on, being on set grew to be second nature, but I'll tell you a little story about the very first day. They took us from our hotel rooms. We didn't know who the other cast members were. It was a mystery. When they took us to dinner, they took us one by one with a little wrangler person, took us to eat, and we weren't allowed to see who the other people were. It was pretty funny. They took all our phones, they took all our sketch pads, they took all our everything, no books, no music, no magazines, no nothing. We weren't allowed to have anything that could inspire us in any way. We got brought over. It was pretty early in the morning. We were supposed to already be camera ready by then. They brought us to this big warehouse that was freezing cold and had us just sitting and waiting in there, and they didn't have breakfast for us. We hadn't eaten, we hadn't had coffee, it was nothing. And we were all starting to get really hungry. And at some point they brought us some craft services stuff, which is M&Ms and pretzels, a couple of yogurt. I'm can I get some protein, please? They brought us in the building, and then we're thinking, okay, they're gonna give us breakfast, they're gonna give us a little orientation, and they're here you go. And we're out on stage, the lights, the cameras, we were what is happening? doing? And then like all of a sudden, like I almost had a breakdown in that moment where, you know, I started to like, the tears were rising up and my throat was closing up. And I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm looking at the set, like the set of this show that I've watched, you know, like, holy crap, I'm right here. This is happening. And the opening scene started. Then they're like, okay, this is gonna be your challenge, go. And we were like, what? Well, they shuttled us into the workroom. No one knew where anything was. I kept peeking around at what everyone was doing and just like, oh my gosh, what they're doing is amazing. What they're doing is amazing. Oh my gosh, I don't belong here. What am I doing here? How did I get myself into this? And then I won that challenge, which is like blew my mind. I didn't know how that was even possible, but we were all really great friends. And I know they really try to make it seem like we're at each other's throats and all this drama. They were trying to get us to like throw shade. So many times the producers would pop out. We'd be doing, you know, just working, everyone doing their thing. And the producer would pop out and be like, someone say that something sucks, you know? Like, they'd pop out and pop back behind the curtain, you know, and we're like, The first many episodes, up until I think the Ganesh, the multi-body piece, I really didn't think I had anything like a chance of even, you know, getting to the finale, let alone winning, right? And in interviews, they kept trying to prompt me to say like, I'm gonna win. I know I'm gonna win. I'm like, I'm not gonna say that. I'm sorry. Like I got into a fight with a producer and I started crying because they kept trying to make me say that. And I'm like, I can't say that. That's not how I feel. I don't feel like I'm gonna win. I feel like I'm lucky I made it this far. You know, I really feel like my competitors are so strong. I don't have a chance. More towards the end, the last few episodes, that's when I finally started feeling like, oh my gosh, I have a chance. And then when I won the multi-body piece, that's when I really felt like, oh my God, I might actually win. Going into the finale, I was definitely excited and nervous. We weren't really allowed to say this, but they let us split it into 2 days. So we'd finished a previous thing from the previous episode, and then they said, we want you to change your clothes and start your background, because for the finale it was a 10-foot by 10-foot background, and then we were going to paint the 2 models, the blend-in one and the showpiece one, right, the standout one. After we'd finished another challenge and somebody else had gone home and all of that, then we like changed our clothes and started the next thing so that we didn't have to do 10 hours all in one go. I was pretty focused on what I was doing. I felt like I was out of my league again at that point because both of my competitors had done murals. Rick, the guy who won, he does murals, like that's what he does. And I was like, oh my gosh, how did I felt like the cards were stacked against me a little bit, but I felt like I held my own. I don't have the workflow. I was really happy with how it ended up. I did feel like what my competitors were doing looked really polished and amazing. But then when I see my final photo, I think, okay, it looks better than I felt like it did in the moment. I feel like the piece that I'm the most proud of on Skin Wars was my multi-body piece, the Ganesh. And it's tough competition between that one and my finale piece, because the finale piece had so much of me in it. Like I really felt like I was pouring my experience from the show into that piece. But the Ganesh was a whole different kind of experience where I felt like I was connected to the source. Like I was just a vessel and it was flowing through me. It was, so then like when it was finished, like I cried. Because I almost, I was just doing what, I was being instructed to do almost. It was really powerful, such a powerful experience to be guided by almost like a higher plane or something, and then to see the finished piece almost like I hadn't seen it before, just if that makes sense, But then they start calling everyone down individually to come take the still shots. So they put us on a set like this that's just all blackout, and we position them exactly right, and we make sure it looks how we want it to look. I got them all in place, and they took the shot, and then they let me see it on the monitor. That's when I started crying. I was like, oh my gosh! I can't believe I made that. My finale piece I'm proud of in a different way because of, how much of me I put into it, but